Yo, what's going on guys? HyperX here, welcome back to another Division video. It is that time of the week again. The vendors have rotated their stock, new stuff in the base operations, terminal and the underground, and of course new blueprints in the dark zone safe rooms. So as always, I'm here to tell you guys what is for sale, and whether or not any of those items stand out as being particularly exciting, and of course worth your time. So as always, if you do enjoy this and you do find this helpful, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts, but let's get started. So first up, DZero safe room, where you go to get your gear pieces. Noteworthy ones this week would mainly be the stamina gloves, of course candidates for Savage and whatnot, but beyond that, electronics vest, electronics holster, and firearms mask, nothing particularly exciting there. So moving swiftly on, we're going to go over to DZero and take a look at the weapons. This week the 229 weapon that you can buy outright, not as a blueprint, just as a flat weapon, is the Tactical Vector 45 ACP with Stable, Fierce and Deadly. So that's an interesting combination, because prior to the Vector getting its nerf, that would have been almost perfect to a certain extent. Deadly being one of the original kind of candidates for a perfect role in this weapon, Fierce of course being pretty nice for the crit chance, Stable being the one that you would likely roll out because you don't really get much benefit from that. That being said, since SMGs now have crit hit damage, you're kind of slightly more interested in chance, truth be told. So while this has interesting potential, there are better SMGs out there, and the Vector is no longer king, so to speak. PP19 is great for PvE, the MP7 being the choice for PvE, so generally speaking, while this is an interesting one, and if maybe you want an SMG and you haven't been able to get a good one, then by all means you can still give it a chance. You could just grab it and roll out Stable for, you know, a decent-ish roll. It's definitely not the best option out there, and if you do have something like a PP19 or an MP7, then it's not worth your time upgrading. So, moving on to the blueprints, you have an MP5 ST blueprint, which is, truth be told, one of the lesser exciting SMGs. And you also have the First Wave Vector 45 ACP, another SMG. It's basically SMG week this week. And of course the Vector falls into the same category as the Tactical Vector at the beginning. Of course this one's a blueprint, so the rolls you get are random. Plus it's also not the best SMG there is anymore. So generally speaking, definitely not going to recommend the blueprints to you guys. And as mentioned, if you are in need of an SMG or you want an SMG at 229 and you don't have one, then you could consider picking up the first one. But do note that if you do pick it up, it's not the best SMG. It's just something that you could use as a, tide you over. But given that you have to be DZ rank 90 and the time investment, you're probably better off going into the underground, farming for some sealed caches, and it probably won't be long before you get a PP19. Anyway, moving on from there, let's go over to DZero, and this is where you go to get your gear mod. This week there are the big guns this time around, so stamina gear mod, firearms gear mod, obviously the best ones out there. So if for some reason you don't have these already, then definitely pick them up. But by now I'm pretty sure everyone's picked these up, because of course these are your bread and butter. Finally, moving over to DZero for the weapon mods, you have an extended magazine and a quick release magazine this week. The only exciting one there, or the best one there, being the extended magazine blueprint. That is of course the best one. Quick release has reload speed on it, not particularly exciting. Extended magazine, however, of course rolls with magazine size, the base one, plus a random talent. So in an ideal situation, often weapon damage paired with extended magazine is a really nice combination. But either way, long and short of it is, if the extended magazine is still in the vendor, i.e. you haven't bought it, then that is definitely a high priority for you. Then, leaving the dark zone behind, if we move over to the base of operations, starting with the vendor at the top, he has a military M870 shotgun, and he has a tactical MK16. The shotgun has destructive, restored, and stable on it, so not particularly exciting there, and the tactical MK16 has adept, swift, and commanding. Similarly, not that exciting, and it's 204, so we're going to move swiftly on. Basically, for me, if ever I'm going to get excited about a 204 weapon or something of lower gear score, it's only going to be if it has a really nice combination of skills. Those ones don't, so let's move on. Next up, of course, is the terminal. Starting down there, you have a 5.86 Magnum. I've personally never been a fan of Magnums. Plus, it has Destructive and Expert on it, so Expert being the base sidearm talent, and Destructive, not really something we're interested in a sidearm. And you also have a Policed M4, with an interesting set of talents. It does have Dominant, Self-Preserved and Fierce. Of course, Self-Preserved and Fierce kind of working hand in hand, Dominant being the one you would roll out. So, of course, if you are, starting out in Division, you're working your way up, maybe you're not fully maxed out and you are still getting benefit from 204 weapons, or alternatively, if you're running some kind of Alpha Bridge build, then there is always value in lower gear score weapons, because the lower the gear score, the lower the talent requirement. So if you had, say, Fierce on a 229 weapon and Fierce on a 204 or a 182 weapon, the requirement on the lower gear score weapon would be much lower. And while yes, there might be a slight difference in percentage, the percentage you get from Fierce on the 229 will be a little bit greater than that you get on the 204 or the 183 or 182. The point is, it's a lot easier to unlock. So as you guys know, if I'm running Alpha Bridge with assault rifles, I run G36 and Caduceus. So Caduceus has very low requirements, so it's easy to unlock. So definitely, if you guys are running Alpha Bridge, do consider having one high gear score weapon, one low gear score weapon, and it gives you what you need to unlock it. So there is potential with this one. It's not like you must rush out and get this, but if it's one of those things that you can personally get benefit from it, then by all means grab it. It's not a bad weapon. Roll out dominant, make something out of it. But besides that, moving over to, in fact, just before I go down in the underground, some of you guys said before that I did miss out the blueprint vendor in the terminal. So this week you can grab a PEQ-15 laser orange blueprint for 293 Phoenix credits, or a performance gear mod blueprint. And for performance gear mods, we obviously completely ignore them right now because they are still not any good. So finally, underground this week, especially for PS4 players. I know last week you kind of got the short straw with, the DLC just dropping, and there wasn't anything particularly exciting on sale. This week there is a military G36 as the 229 weapon. This requires you be underground rank 40, but this has destructive, fierce, and focused. Now, destructive is of course nice because assault rifles have armor damage, so it actually goes quite nicely there. Fierce is similarly not a bad talent at all, so in this situation you would more than likely roll out focused. It's not often that you get use out of focused. I personally do, because I run Caduceus, so I've basically got my skills off cooldown all the time. My skills are generally speaking off cooldown quicker than they have run out, so I actually get a fair bit of use out of this skill. But generally speaking, in most situations, if you're not running a very specific build, then that would be the one you'd roll out. And on the other side of things, you've got a rank 20 surplus SVD, only gear score 204. This one has Provident, which is not a particularly great skill, Sustained, and Decisive. So generally speaking, not an amazing roll on that one, so I'm not going to recommend that. So that is pretty much it for this week. In short, recommendations would be the extended magazine, potentially the Police M4 if you can find some use for it, and the military G36 if you are at that point, if you can kind of consider rolling out one of those talents. So all in all, a pretty average week, so to speak. Nothing that really jumps out as being absolutely amazing, but similarly, there are some interesting options. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. Also, don't forget that I'm going to be at Gamescom next week, so I'm really hoping, we haven't heard anything from Massive, but I'm really hoping that we're going to get some news about the next expansion. So if we hear anything, if there is any news next week, then I will be reporting from the ground for you guys. So hopefully there'll be some news on some new content next week, because I'm pretty sure we all want to know what's next for Division. But either way, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.